Let me get Visa's quote here. They published a blog, and they said, quote, and this is in line with things they've said before and what MasterCard has said in public before as well, asking private companies to decide what legal products or services can or cannot be bought and from what store sets a dangerous precedent. Further, it would be an invasion of consumers' privacy for banks and payment networks to know each of our most personal purchasing habits. Visa is firmly against this. They also said, quote, when we process a transaction, we have no visibility into what items consumers purchasing. This is true irrespective of which MCC merchant applies. And finally, I think most importantly, they say, quote, our network does not allow any financial institution member to deny transactions for the purchase of legal goods or services based on which MCC they fall under. Visa provides our services to everyone, everywhere, so long as they are used for legal purchases. We believe that is the appropriate standard. And so, I mean, to be fair to Visa, they do seem to be just shooting down this whole concept that Sorkin and Elizabeth Warren and people like Letitia James and New York AG have brought up for this change.
My discussions with the processors is they're not happy they've been dragged into this. It's a little unclear did they really fight the establishment of this standard, the code? That remains to be seen. But even the quote you read from Visa, so Acme Bank couldn't deny all transactions coming from a gun store under the code, but if they get access to what's in the basket, that statement would not preclude them from saying, well, we'll process other gun store transactions, but not ones where they're buying that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Visa says they don't want that.
They don't want
that level
right?
either.
But they also said they didn't want the code, but here we are.
Right. Yeah, and I get the other thing I'll say is these are pretty strong statements from Visa to their credit, but we talked to them, we reached out to them. I spoke very briefly with one of their spokespeople, and they just would not answer any questions beyond what was in the blog post. And if their position is that they don't intend to use this MCC code the way that the people who've pushed for the change are advocating, then it's still unclear to me why they're adopting it at all.
Well, and they're not obligated, right? It's not a legal requirement that they adopt the code. It's a voluntary industry standard.
Right.
The three of them decided we're not going down this path, but they have all said immediately after it was adopted, within 24 hours, that they would adopt and implement the standard because that's the standard for their industry. So they've sort of been dragged into this by the gun control community. And so now they're trying to figure out, it seems to me, how to navigate it. I mean, they are talking to the Hill. The Hill is asking them pointed questions. And I will tell you, we are aware, because we're getting questions from state legislators, from attorneys general, what's going on. They're going to be engaging on the issue as well.
So what is the industry doing to prepare for this MCC implementation, if anything? Like what can what are you telling your retailers?
We're working to educate members of the industry. What we're seeing already, we've heard this and we've seen some stories about it. Retailers are putting ATM machines in their store. So, you see comments in social media, et cetera, saying, well, we'll just simply pay with cash, right? So, and if you're a bad guy, right, like you're illegal firearms trafficker, well, you'll just pay cash and avoid any, so you'll sidestep it. But then it brings up, other unintended consequences. Now you have gun stores with a lot of cash. If you got a lot of cash, you become a target for robberies, right? So, so there's.
Well, I would also wonder too, because obviously, certainly, I've heard that comment a lot on social media. Well, just buy guns with cash from now on, and that would prevent you from the purchase from showing up in this new MCC code. But but also that would seem to be a pretty severe blow to the industry if people feel they can't buy guns with their credit or debit, because this would also affect
Yep.
debit card
Yeah.
purchases. Then that's gonna, I mean, that's bad. It's not a good
Yeah.
thing for the industry, I would imagine.
No, I mean, right. We wouldn't want to see that because, it should be treated like every other industry and be able to access or use the payment process. I'd suspect you'll see legislation introduced in Congress on this. Maybe not till the next Congress. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see hearings on this issue, in the next Congress to sort of get to the bottom of what happened and why this was adopted. And as I mentioned earlier, the sort of very troubling ISO process where, they were re-invited after being rejected twice. Why? Who did that? And, how did it get appealed and approved in the same day? That's very, suspect to me. That just raises a lot of red flags for me about the process. So we'll see.
Do you have any concerns about basically blue states, New York and California adopting policies that require, if somebody spends X amount of dollars at this MCC code, that transaction will have to be reported to local law enforcement?
Something like that could happen. And on the opposite side, I could see very red states saying you're not allowed to use that code and process a transaction in this state, and if you do, it's a fine. So this has just become another battle on the overall Second Amendment fight, it seems. So,
and it seems like it could go broader than that too. I mean, there's no MCC code for abortion clinics right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes another hot button issue here soon.
I think you can almost guarantee things like that will occur. It's just sort of a natural, okay, well, you did that to us, we'll do that to you as well. Two can play that game. So, we frankly have already heard that from some state legislators saying, well, we're going to drop a bill to require, reporting for, abortion services, some other hot button issue, or, name the product, right?